Good morning, good morning. All around, the African dawn is singing to us. Woodpeckers, francolins, crested barbets, and there's just the most tremendous atmosphere. Welcome on the Dawn Safari. Remember, questions, comments, anything you'd like to say to us, we'd love to hear from you. Hashtag SafariLive or questions@wildearth.tv. In the control room this morning, we've got Tara and about 7 cameramen who are doing various bits and pieces. On the other vehicle, we've got Brent and Andrew. And behind camera this morning, we have Viam. That's his beautifully woolen gloved hand. And my name is James, in case you didn't know. And if you're a first-time viewer, you're especially welcome. We're sitting here in an ancient sea with to the east, where that glow of the beautiful sun is about to come up, the rhyolite mountains of the Lubombo, and to the west, the great expanse of the Drakensberg escarpment that extends 1,000 kilometers down the escarpment of South Africa. This ancient sea that we find ourselves in is called the Lowveld, and a little piece of it on which we are going to explore this morning is called Djuma, and a little bit to the west of us called Arathusa, part of an expanse of 3.5 million hectares of untrammeled wildlife wilderness. So this morning, our plan is to head down. We're going to check the hyena den quickly. There is one over here. Quite a lot of tracks going in and out, but because the cubs are pretty much old enough to be on their own now, I don't know that it's going to be active. Then there was tracks of a leopard heading down to the south, so we'll just follow up on those for a little while. My main intention is to check the southern boundary to see if the Styx pride of lions hasn't come back onto Djuma, and if they have, we'll follow them. If they haven't, well, we'll see what else the Kruger National Park has to give us this morning. No doubt it will be a lot. Thanks very much for everything, all the comments and questions last night. Very stimulating drive. Let's have the same again this morning. Here we go. For those of you who are worried about the temperature, Viam and I reckon it's about 12 degrees Celsius, which I think is about 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're just going to have a look in here to see if we can't find perhaps a few hyenas. They managed to tear off the door yesterday of our rubbish dump. So they're quite powerful things. The door is quite a heavy wooden thing, and they then dragged out the dustbins and basically made an enormous mess. So I'm just going to approach quite slowly. Approach quite slowly just to make sure there are a few of them there. That's wonderful. Aha. Great stuff. Just approach slowly so that they don't panic and rush off and disappear into the hole that is in that termite mound. Oh, there's a whole lot going on there. There's an adult, 2 adults, and 3 cubs. Very inquisitive. Stop here to stop. Okay, Viam? That's great. I'm just going to contact Brent quickly. Go ahead, Brent. Oh, this is just so special. probably the same at the hyena den. Affirmative. Isn't it wonderful how they're so close to the front of the vehicle we can't even see them? So these little things are, I'm not sure how old they are, but they look to me to be about 3 or 4 months old. So they scuttled off when I moved. And the danger here is that they'll pull the oil cap off the wheel. Now that little tail sticking up like that is a sort of an indication of a bit of alarm. Very inquisitive, and they lose this inquisitiveness when they become adults, but not the confidence. They do remain very confident. And that running away, they've just noticed Via moving on the back, and that's why they're running off. Oi. We don't want him to remove the oil cap. Good morning. Hello, little fellow. I suspect, now, hyenas are very difficult to sex, or spotted hyenas are. Oh, look at that picture. But because there are 3 youngsters here, I suspect that there are some males amongst them. If there were only females, there would have been probably siblicide. And the females, if they're born together as twins, they're normally only 2 born, so it's quite unusual that there are 3 here, and they look to be the same age. 2 females, 1 female will definitely kill the other. And they normally then take over as the matriarch of the clan. So I suspect one of these 2 is a young male, and one is a female. What are you chaps doing on that side? As soon as they feel me moving, they go run about. So the Land Rover's got a little oil cap on the edge of the wheel, and young hyenas like this seem to home in on it and pull it off. Let's play with a stick, rather. Oi. Didn't like my clicking noise. That's interesting there. Maybe just trying to see what that little cub is trying to do there. So you can see the one suckling, and the other one, the one that was removing our oil cap, is now playing with that other adult. I wonder if anyone can tell me, if any of the viewers know when these 2 were born, because it looks to me, now that I look at them, that the one suckling is possibly younger than these other 2. And that might be their mother that they're playing with now. He's just taken the oil cap off. Lisa, thank you very much for your information. You said that they are 4 months old. Oi. Oi. He's about to pull the wheel off. Carol, go on. Just homing in on that cap. Now there, now he's giving himself a fright. So, Lisa, thank you for that information, there being 4 months. Do you have any idea if there were 3 in the litter, which is quite a lot for hyena, or if there were 2? Right, thanks very much for that, Lisa. So, as I suspected, these 2 that are busy trying to tear the Land Rover apart are siblings, and the one with the other female there that we saw suckling is slightly younger. So, I'm going to postulate that these 2 that we're looking at now, horsing about the place, or hyenaing about the place, are brother and sister, or 2 males. They will not be. It's highly unlikely that there'd be 2 females. And the fact that the other one is on its own indicates that it may well be a female, and that it could have engaged in siblicide. It's unusual for them to only have 1 baby. So I suspect that some fate has befallen the siblings of that one. Like I say, if there are 2 females, they exhibit something called canism or siblicide, and canism comes from Cain and Abel. Hello, Tim in Arkansas. Nice question there. Thank you. You can see, you've obviously noticed that the adults are not reacting to them coming so close to us. And that is absolutely as you surmise, because they don't, they don't see us as a threat. But on foot it would be very different. So they don't associate the vehicle with a threat, Tim, but they do associate us on foot with a threat. So they wouldn't, if we arrived here, if we walked up here, the babies would probably disappear down the burrow. I suspect the adults would probably go off into the bush. If we then looked like we were going to try and get into the burrow, the adults may become a little angry and perhaps aggressive, but normally they'd all just run away if we came here on foot. They just don't associate anything with the vehicle, any danger with the vehicle. And especially after an interaction like this, you can imagine when these cubs grow up, they will be just as relaxed as the adults are. Isn't it wonderful seeing them play like this? Children's play, just like animal play, is such an important part of gaining strength and gaining coordination and fitness and gaining muscle mass. Hello, Safari. You are worried about one of the cubs' feet being swollen. I haven't seen any that are swollen. The hyena do tend to have a rather bow-legged appearance. These 2 cubs looking fine fettle to me. Now we can see that little one there, much smaller. And now also coming to have a quick look. Not quite as confident. Here comes an adult. They will bully each other, and that tail up is a sign of kind of, not alarm, but definitely sort of tension, which is quite fun. This is wonderful. I've tried so often to come to this den, and I've never seen them behaving like this. It's fantastic. Hyenas are such great value. One of the most misunderstood animals in Africa. Look at this. The adult hasn't sensed something coming up, and you'll notice that the first thing the youngster do is run for the burrow. Obviously, they're not too concerned. So, look at that. Just look at those two there. Those two are a different age. And the little one, there is clearly younger now. You can see them beautifully framed there by Viam, who's doing his best to crane the camera over the side. Brenda and Virginia, you say one of them is a year old. I'm assuming you mean one of the bigger ones here. Certainly the cubs that we're looking at here are nowhere near a year old. It's possible that one of the adult-looking ones is about a year old, except that I'm pretty sure that they're both mothers. One the mother of the two, and the other the mother of the one. So, Brenda, if you've seen cubs sort of a year ago, I don't think that they are here. They still may well be part of the same clan, but they won't necessarily hang around the den. They'll be out foraging for most of the night and into the morning. So in my humble opinion, I wouldn't say that there are any year-old cubs here now. But definitely two mothers and two litters, which is a huge distinction between wild dogs and wolves and hyenas, for example. Only the alpha pair in a dog pack will breed. Gilly in Wisconsin, you ask a great question. Why do I think that Mother Nature made hyenas' backs so sloping? Well, Gilly, try and think of an antelope that has the same look. And your answer will sort of be apparent from that. They are sloping like that because it is an adaptation, much like a wildebeest, for long distance running. So they can go huge distances. Got one coming up here, having a look at my hand, which is hanging over the edge. You can't even see him. You get in there, Viam? No. He's right around the front. Sorry, Gilly. And the adaptation is that the sacrifice speed, so they're not nearly as fast as something like a leopard or perhaps even a wild dog. They are much bigger than wild dogs. But what it means is that they can run and run and run and run without getting tired. They get into that sort of loping canter and they can go for ages, probably much more than any other predator can. And that's a great adaptation if you want to scavenge. And indeed, some of the research into our own origins suggests that we gained this upright stance because we're actually excellent scavengers rather than hunters. We're not very fast compared to the animals out here, but we can move long distances. Herring around. So the adults look to be moving along. I'm not sure. They're all behind us. Well, the two of them are behind us, walking away. And so I don't think these little ones are going to be out for much longer, but we're going to wait until they disappear. They're such excellent entertainment. So, Gilly, in summary, an adaptation for long-distance running. Just think of a wildebeest and the distances they have to cover in places like the Serengeti or the Mara, and you have a sort of idea of similar design. In fact, all the antelope that migrate big distances will generally have large forequarters and small hindquarters. Sabira Zumi, thank you for your question. You want to know, do we ever name clans of hyenas? Sometimes. I've never done it. I'm not a huge fan of naming at all, but I'm perfectly happy to accept that others like to do it. So in some areas, I've definitely heard of people naming clans, so they'll probably name them after an area. So this would be, let's pretend we're on a road called Philemon's Cutline, so this could be Philemon's clan, for example, and there's certainly some areas where we do that. Here, not so much. I suppose it's because we don't spend nearly as much time with them as we do with the leopards or the lions, and so because they don't have that sort of iconic status, we tend not to know exactly the individual. So, for example, all of you who watch regularly are able to identify those leopards from that we see regularly from 100 different markings they have. I mean, you're far better at identifying them than I am. And likewise with the lions. When I first got here, the first lion pride I saw, I said to you all, I didn't know who they were, and you gave me the exact pride breakdown, and you told me who had had cubs when, and which restaurants they'd been to last night, and that sort of level of detail was quite astonishing. And so with the hyenas, we tend not to spend as much time with them. They're not, we're sitting here and they're being particularly confiding, but they tend not to hang around in a group like a lion pride does. So they're a little more complicated to assess in terms of their social dynamics. So, for example, I couldn't tell you how big this clan was, and I'm willing to bet that despite all the knowledge that our regular viewers have, they probably also couldn't tell you how big the clan was. So we know how old these cubs are, but we don't know how many adults there are in the clan. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I wonder if we shouldn't try and spend more time habituating them and following them more than we do. But, yeah, I don't know. Just going to wait here for a little while and see if they don't come out again. They spend more time in the holes, and I think it's there's just a better coloration to be when you're on the edge of the hole of the den. It kind of mirrors that color, especially as any predator that comes through here for a hyena, and that would only be a lion or an extremely brave leopard and maybe a big pack of wild dogs, they see in black and white. And so that black color against the black background of a termite mound hole would be quite difficult to see. So that would be my guess, Wesley. Happy to take some debate on it, though, if you think that there might be another explanation. Thanks very much. Hello, Jim. As I read the other day, a good question is one without a simple answer. And yours falls into that category, as do so many of the questions we've had today. You want to know, do hyenas see in color? And the answer is no, not really. But I think it's a continuum. It's not necessarily like flicking the color off on your TV and the whole picture goes black and white. So there are two different kinds of cells in the eye, as far as I understand it. One called rods and one called cones, and one is responsible for seeing light, and the other is responsible for seeing color. And I'm just going to stop here while I explain this. And what happens is that the the color, apparently the more cones you have, and I think the cones see color, if I might have it mixed up, but if I don't, the more cones you have, the fewer rods you can have. And the more color you have, the less, the smaller your ability to see or to differentiate light and dark is. So animals that see at night, or who have good nocturnal eyesight, will see, or the better your nocturnal eyesight, the less you will see in color, as far as I understand it. So the better your color vision, the worse your night vision. So we as human beings have terrible night vision compared with the cats. And some birds also have appalling night vision. So the most colorful birds obviously have to be able to see in color. And I've watched them try and land at night. And it's extremely difficult for a bird that is not nocturnal to land effectively and perch in the night time. So that's why we try and stop. We try not to disturb them in the trees at night, because if they take off, they do find it difficult to land. And I noticed that first, actually, with a friend of mine had a cockatiel that didn't live in a cage. And at night, if it was startled, it would fly around and around and around and not be able to land until you turned the light on. So, in summary, the worse your ability to see at night, the better your color vision. But it's a continuum. It's not a question of being either black and white in color. So they'll see some color, I'm sure, but they won't see color anything like you and I see color. Edward, do you want to know if mange ever troubles hyenas? I don't know a huge amount about mange. It definitely does affect some animals out here. I'm assuming it would affect hyenas. I'm also assuming that there are probably various different kinds of it that you get out here. I've definitely seen kudu seem to be the most poorly affected by what is probably a wide range of diseases that we loosely term mange. I've seen some hyenas that look pretty mangy. Whether they have one of those diseases or not, I'm not sure. But yes, I would imagine a hyena that was immunocompromised or is very stressed could well develop some sort of mange.